Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at the story from chapter 27 of the Road to Latin textbook. Now this story is called De Urbe Roma, so you can tell by the title it's going to be talking about the city of Rome and giving you a little more information about sort of the geography and the physical nature layout of the city. So what I'd encourage you to do, if you want more help with this or just more resources to work your way through this chapter or the Road to Latin textbook, I'd always encourage you to take a look at my website. You can find grammar help, notes, videos, vocab practice, just a bunch of stuff to help kind of unpack the grammar, the stories, the translations, all these things for you, and give you a bunch of practice that you can kind of feel better about the Latin as you go. Now, the other thing I always tell you is as we start a new chapter, you always want to make sure that you have the vocab under control first and then look at the grammar. So the vocab is really important. If you want on Nova Latin, you can find you can find a Quizlet to help you with the vocab and practicing it. It's because if you don't know what the words are, you're really in a tough spot, right? It's very hard to read the Latin if you don't know what the words mean. And so that should always be sort of a starting point. The grammar for this chapter is really repetitive for what we've seen before, but still you want to look through it. If you want to take a look at Nova Latin, you can find notes for it. In my own class, I kind of skip over the grammar and smush the past couple chapters of grammar together because it's all on third declension nouns. But there is a slight tweak. This is about I stem, third declension nouns, if I remember right. So if you want to read more about that, feel free. The notes are all there. Unpack it as you go. Once you're in that place and you feel like you have the vocab, you have the grammar, what you want to do is do what we call the read and reread method. So you want to read the story, right? If you can find a partner from class, someone you can read the story to and have them read it back to, that would be ideal. That way you're working, you're speaking, you're listening, you're bringing all the skills together. But as you go and work through it, you want to be writing down anywhere that you don't, understand, any words you don't understand, phrases, grammar, things like that. And once you've done a full read through, right, the first time, go look up all the problem areas you have. So look up any words you don't know, practice them. Look up any grammar you're not sure of or try to figure out, why am I not translating this right? What am I missing? When you start putting all the pieces together, then when you go back and read it a second, a third, a fourth time, as many times as you need, it should get easier and easier and easier. And the idea is to really feel confident in these stories. You want to be able to read them without, from start to finish and understand them fully without needing a dictionary or having to look up things in the grammar, things like that. Once you hit that place, you can feel really confident that you understand it and you're really ready to move forward. Okay. So I would encourage you to do that. There's a little bit of overview here. A couple slides about the grammar. It's on third declension nouns. There is a slight tweak. Like I said, feel free to look it up. I'm not going to cover it now just because we've done so much on third declension nouns the past few chapters. But at the end of the day, if you can understand this chart and you get what it means, you know the endings, you feel comfortable with them, that's really a good place to be. So if you feel like, yeah, I can, any third declension noun I run into, I can translate it, you can feel pretty comfortable that you're on the right track. And like I said, this chapter has a tweak of the I stems. It's really not too bad to figure out. I'll leave it for you, but you just want to make sure that you've read through all the grammar and that you've kind of approached it in context, that when you're looking at these stories, you can see, oh, there's a third declension noun or there's an I stem, and it'll just make a lot more sense for you. Okay, so once you're in that place, you want to dive in. We're going to go through the story right now. You should check your translation against mine, and if we're matching pretty close, you can feel like you're on the right track. Not that mine's perfect, but at least it'll give you sort of a guide to help you get unstuck if you're having any trouble with it. So let's dive right in there and start up. You have Roma est urbs clara, right? That's our first line. It just means Rome is a famous city, right? And you can see off to the right, we have a map of what ancient Rome looked like. You have viae templa aedificia urbis sunt pulchra. So the roads, the temples, remember templum is a neuter noun, so templa is nominative plural. And the buildings, the aedificia, again, neuter noun. So the roads, the temples, and the buildings of the city, urbis, sunt pulchra, they are beautiful. Okay. Then you have Romulus, rex primus, urbi nomen dated. So Romulus, the first king, the rex primus, right? He dated here is a tense we actually haven't seen. It's called the perfect tense, and we'll get into it a little later. For now, just translate it as gave. It comes from the verb dodare, which means to give, but it's more past tense, basically. So for now, you can just read this sort of as a separate vocab word and saying Romulus, the first king, gave the name to the city, right? It's called Rome because of King Romulus, okay? Then you have Flumen Tiberius, urbem divide. So the Tiber River divides the city. And you can see on this map, the Tiber River is going right to the left, the western side of Rome, right? It's against, so I guess one way you could say it is the city of Rome is on the eastern bank of the Tiber River. Now, in the modern city, it really does divide it. In the ancient city, there wasn't as much over on the western side, particularly early on. almost all of the really famous buildings and locations are on the eastern side of the river. And early on, the river acted as like a wall, basically a barrier, right, to protect the city. The other reason, and I encourage you to look this up, a little culture unit, right? I'll try to post in the description a link to help you out. But the reason the eastern side of the Tiber River was more interesting is because of the 7 hills, right? So these are some of the famous hills, the Capitoline Hill, the Palatine Hill. Being up and elevated is really where ancient people wanted to be for safety. And all those hills, or the majority of them, are on the eastern side or the right-hand side of this map, which explains why the city of Rome is where it is. Okay. Then you have mare non longe ab urbe abest. So mare is the sea, right? And it's one of these third declension I-stem nouns you're learning in this chapter, but it's a third declension noun for all intents and purposes, right? So abest means to be away. Non longe means not far. So a way you can translate this is the sea is not far away, ab urbe, from the city, which is true, right? Rome is pretty close to the Mediterranean Sea. It's not on the Mediterranean, but it is close. It's just up the river. Then you have in mare flumen Tiberis fluet. So the Tiber River flows into the sea. Okay. Then you have Urbe Roma ab ore fluminis Tiberis non longe abest. So the city of Rome is not far away from the ore fluminis, from the mouth of the Tiber River. Now, when we say mouth, it means where the Tiber River empties into the Mediterranean. So if you're looking at a map, one thing you're going to notice is Rome is not right on the Mediterranean, right? It's up the river. So Rome had a port, right, which I think this chapter is going to describe. And you would basically sail a boat up the river if you wanted to get to Rome, but it's not very far away, right? It's close enough where Rome has definitely has access to the sea, which would be really important. Okay, it's why Rome is in a sort of strategic place. Then you have nomen maris est mare inferum. So you have the name of the sea, right, of the ocean, of the sea, however you want to do it, is the mare inferum. So this is it means the lower sea, literally. So these are some names the Romans had for basically the southwest coast of Italy, the different, depending on where you are, sort of on the western half of Italy, you have the lower sea and the upper sea. So it's saying the name of the sea is the mare inferum, right, the lower sea. Then you have amari paucae naves Romam veniunt quod flumen non est altum. So from the sea, amari, few ships, paucae naves, right? Few boats or few ships, veniunt Romam, came or come to Rome, rather. Remember, Romam here, accusative, when you have the name of the city, you don't need a preposition. So this just means to Rome, right? The accusative tells you that. Because the flumen, the river, non est altum, it's not deep, right? So the Tiber River is not particularly deep. So you don't actually sail boats up the river. You would stop at the port, right? Ostia is one of them, the port of Rome, and then you would kind of transport your goods either over land, or I guess you could put them on a smaller boat that wouldn't be as deep to get up the Tiber River. Then you have est mare superum quoque nam maria Italiam ferre circumstant. So here you're saying there is the mare superum, the upper sea, which is really like the sort of northwest coast of Italy, right? So there is the upper sea too, right? For the maria, the seas, and again, this is the nominative plural, and again, the I stem is why you have an I there, maria, right? So the seas, circumstant, they go around, right? Or you could say they surround, maybe is a good way to do it. The seas nearly ferre surround Italiam, right? Italy. So the water of the Mediterranean Sea almost encircles Italy. This is why it's a peninsula, right? Obviously, it's not an island, but it's close. Okay, so it's just giving you a little geography, and you can see a map of Italy to the right. I'm just kind of explaining where all these things are. Then you continue, you have multi et magnae urbes in Italia. So there are many big cities, right? Multi et magnae, many big cities or large cities in Italy. Roma est maxima urbium. So Rome is the greatest of the cities, right? The largest one, most important too. Roma est caput Italiae. So Rome is the capital of Italy, literally like the head of Italy, but capital is really what it means here, the capital of Italy. Multis urbibus pulchris proxima est Roma. So there is near Rome, or you might even say Rome is near, kind of reverse order it, right? Remember, proxima is one of our special adjectives that takes a dative. So it's saying Rome is near to many beautiful cities, multis urbibus pulchris, right? So there's a lot of beautiful cities nearby. Viatores a multis terris ad urbes claras veniunt. So travelers, viatores, right? They come from many lands, a multis terris, right? So from many lands ad urbes claras, to the famous cities. Okay, so it's saying there's a lot of travelers coming from all over the place to come and see these cities. right? Then you have in multis urbibus Italiae sunt ruinae aedificorum magnorum. So in the many cities, right? In many cities, you might say, in multis urbibus of Italy, Italia is genitive here. So in many cities of Italy, there are ruins of aedificiorum magnorum, of great or large buildings. Okay, so you can see it. So I think what we've done here is kind of time warped into modern time. You can see these great ruins, which is too. This is why people go to Italy today. You can still see all these cool things. Then you have ruinae urbium antiquarum viatoribus sunt gratae. So the ruins are gratae, they're pleasing, and remember, you have to be pleasing to something, you're looking for a dative, to the viatoribus, to the travelers, right? And it's the ruinae urbium antiquarum, the ruins of ancient cities are pleasing to travelers, right? Then you have antiquas urbes libenter spectant. So they happily, or like to, you might say, look at spectant, the antiquas urbes, the ancient cities. Okay, so they like to go look at these ancient cities. Then you continue. You have temporibus antiquis civis Romanus erat homo superbus. So in ancient times, temporibus antiquis, right? So here when you're dealing with time ablative, it's really saying in ancient times. The civis Romanus, a Roman citizen, was a homo superbus, right? An arrogant person, you might say, or a proud person, right? A proud man. Nisi homo erat civis Romanus barbaros saepe appellebator. So unless the man was a civis Romanus, a Roman citizen, often saepe, he was called appellebator, right? Imperfect passive. He was called barbarian, barbaros, right? A barbarian. Vita civis Romani erat inviolata. So the life of a Roman citizen was inviolata. It was like unviolable is kind of what you'd say. Inviolable. It means you're not supposed to like hurt them is the idea. Then you have barbarus civi Romano non erat caros. So the barbarian was not dear, non erat caros, right? It was not dear to the Roman citizen. It means they didn't really like them. Okay. Itaque vita barbari non erat inviolata. So the life of the barbarian was not inviolata, inviolable. Okay, so the book is trying to make, I think it's a little weird of a distinction, but, it's an older book. We'll take it for what it is, between Romans and barbarians, what they're calling them. That's kind of giving the idea of citizenship, right, which is a good culture unit to talk about here. What does it mean to be a Roman citizen? That's kind of what the book is getting at here. Then you have barbarus civem Romanum non amabat et a cive Romano non amabator. So the barbarian did not like, or was not liking, non amabat, right? Didn't like the civem Romanum, the Roman citizen, and was not liked, non amabator, right? Imperfect passive, by the Roman citizen. So it's saying the barbarians didn't like Romans, the Romans didn't like barbarians, which again is a generalization, right? Not entirely true, but we'll take it for what the book is saying. Then you have cives Romani extremis interis saepe habitaban. So the Roman citizens often lived, habitaban, they were living, imperfect, in extremis terris, in far-off lands. Iura civium Romanorum etiam extremis in terris diligenter servabantur. So the laws, the iura, right, the laws of the Roman citizen also servabantur diligenter. So it's saying the laws of Roman citizens also were preserved, you might say, servabantur. They were diligently preserved in distant lands. It's meaning even if you went kind of far off, right, Roman law still held weight, right, no matter where you are in the Roman Empire. Then you have judices civibus Romanis erant benigni. So judices, judges, right, they were kind, benigni, they were kind to Roman citizens, right, to the civibus Romanis. Then we have this last part here. You have si homo clamabat, civis Romanus sum, vita era inviolata. So if a man was shouting, I am a Roman citizen, right? Civis Romanus sum, I am a Roman citizen. His life, vita era inviolata, his life was inviolable, right? Meaning you can't hurt him, kill him, right? It's supposed to protect him is the idea. Itaque imperium Romanum et in Italia et in terris extremis civis Romanus servaba. So the Roman power, Imperium Romanum, right? You could say Roman power, it protected, servabat, or it was protecting the cives Romanos, Roman citizens. Then we have the correlatives et, so it means both in. So both in Italy, in Italia, and in terris extremis, in far-off lands, right? Which is true. You'd be protected if you are a Roman citizen. Now, obviously, if you go into another country, they might not particularly care you're a Roman citizen, but you get the idea that Roman law was supposed to kind of protect you wherever you're traveling. Okay, I like to think of this as kind of within the bounds of the Roman Empire, but it probably did expand further than that. Then you have the last line, Iure imperium Romanum a civibus Romanis laudabatur. Okay, so the Imperium Romanum, right, Roman power, right, here you have iure, which means like justly is kind of one way to translate it. So justly or rightly, Roman power, laudabator, was praised, right, it's imperfect passive, by civibus Romanis, by Roman citizens. So it's saying the Roman citizens loved Roman power. So what you want to do here, and hopefully that Latin made sense. If you have any questions at all, put it in the comments below. But what I'd encourage you to do, and I'll try to put in the link here, in my class, we do a culture on the city of Rome and looking at sort of the actual geography and looking at a map where the buildings are. That would be something I'd turn your attention to. And also I use this as a chance to talk about Roman citizenship, which is really important. It has a lot of modern connections, right? You don't have to go very far to see debates over citizenship. Same thing in ancient Rome. The way they treat citizens and what it means to be a Roman citizen was really important, and it led to a lot of problems, if we're being honest, a lot of wars, because they didn't let everyone be a citizen. So just because you were living within the bounds of the Roman Republic or Roman Empire didn't necessarily mean you were a citizen for a long time. So I'll leave you to explore that, but it's worth looking into. I'm going to kind of explain what's going on here, and it's a really good cultural unit to kind of tie all this together. But in terms of the story, hopefully it made some sense. Practice your third declension nouns as you go the I stems. You can see them here. But, other than that, it's repeating a lot of what we've seen, because this is the third or fourth chapter where we've done third declension nouns. So hopefully you feel really confident at this point. If you don't, read it again and keep practicing until you feel really good about it. Okay. But if you have any questions, again, let me know. Otherwise, keep at it and good luck.